Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and in today's video we'll be doing some updates for World of Warcraft as of recently, all the new things that happened and anything you guys might be interested in. There's a couple things we'll be talking about. One of them will be one of the biggest exploits for World of Warcraft Classic, as well as patch 8.25 being literally on the horizon. We're gonna start the news off with the patch 8.25. Patch 8.2.5 is supposed to bring us a couple different changes to the game. Nothing major, but some more additions that a lot of people are excited about. Primarily being the Worgen and the Goblin model updates, as well as a couple more quality of life changes, and maybe any class changes that are waiting to come out. We also have the conclusion to the war campaign, which could signify the ending of Battle for Azeroth, which will be pretty abrupt, or maybe more stuff that is yet to come to BFA, but we will move away from this war, Alliance versus Horde conflict for the story, and rather maybe Alliance and Horde banding together to fight other existential threats. We still have Sylvanas to deal with, and N'Zoth is also a pretty big threat to both of the factions, so it could be the end to this faction campaign war thing, and really just a more, hey, organized story that everybody gets to band together for. Either way you slice it, it is going to be something new and exciting to check out in patch 8.25, whether you want to see the conclusion to the story, the continuation to where the story goes, and potentially to find out if we're going to have more patches in BFA or simply a new expansion on the horizon very soon. A lot of people have been wondering when patch 8.2.5 is going to be coming out, and it looks like it's going to be out sooner than we think. Couple bits of information for us to parse through. First of all was a Blizzard post on Twitter to help promote this new system called Party Sync, which will allow you to level with your friends on different level characters, so you can sync up your levels together and level and redo certain quests that your friend may have not done before, which will allow more people to play together. They were stating in a tweet that this system is coming out in a couple months, and then they went back and changed it to a couple weeks. So it tells us that this is going to be happening really soon, somewhere within this upcoming month. And then Blizzard decided to drop a blue post on everything that is new in patch 8.25. Pretty sure they won't be posting this like a month ahead. Basically, I think this is going to be like a week or two wait time before we see patch 8.25. So 8.25 is most likely going to be next week or the week after that. I'll probably go through all the different changes in 8.25 before this week is over, in case for prep if this patch is going to be coming out next Tuesday. Still super exciting, cannot wait for 8.25 to get here with some of the class changes that are going to be good, but nothing major. Cannot wait to get on my Goblins and Worgens and try to get those up and running as a max level character with the brand new models. Now let's get into Classic World of Warcraft and people getting banned in Classic. So, layering is a technology that Blizzard has been using in Classic World of Warcraft to help alleviate the sheer number of players that have been playing the game. It's no surprise that a lot of people decided to try out Classic World of Warcraft, and especially if you play on a high pop server, there's a reason why you have such long queues in order to even log into the server, to log on your character, to finally be able to play the game. Blizzard has been using a layering system, which basically makes a copy of your realm. It's not quite phasing system, as it is restricted to only people on the same server as you. So it's not a cross-server phasing technology, but it's similar because it is basically the same server you're on, but a second copy, and when a first layer overfills with too many players, some people get thrown on another layer in order to have a more reasonable experience. And that is just a layman's term explanation. There's probably a lot more that can be gone into detail, but that's the basic stuff that you need to know. The idea behind layering system is eventually Blizzard is going to pull it out of the game, as eventually you'll have people spreading around all over different servers. People will leave the high pop realms, or they'll choose to stay on them. And eventually you do want to have all the players in the same instance so you can see everybody, instead of having people on the same server but in different instances of the realm, to really create the authentic vanilla WoW experience. So eventually the system is here to alleviate the issues, but as people figure out if maybe Classic is not for them, some people try the game and they leave, some people start with friends and their friends leave, some people decide to give it a go because it's new, but they have no intention of actually playing the content and getting a max level character and getting involved in the Classic community. Eventually you'll have a natural leave of a lot of people, which will alleviate the ability for everybody else that is focused on playing Classic World of Warcraft and putting most of their time into it to be able to play servers without the need of this layering system. Layering has been used in very controversial ways, and to this case now bannable ways. The first use of layering has been, I guess, kind of clever, but everybody has their own opinion on it. But Joker, who is a world first level 60, was playing on his gnome frostmage AoE grinding mobs, and after he would, let's say, finish a pack of mobs like zombies in a farm, he would get invited to a group and use the layering system to get a fresh spawn of zombies in that same location. So he doesn't have to move anywhere, he just has to AoE down the mobs, get invited into a group, put in a different layer where those enemies are back, and do this over and over and over again. So while that was controversial, some people think that his world first was kind of legitimate, maybe like a little bit iffy, but still it was a cool event nonetheless, and the guy only was able to get to max level 60. That doesn't really give him some crazy new advantage unless you do count having a layer or levels above other players or hitting world first as some sort of advantage. Where it got a little bit iffy, however, with the layering system is with people using it instead of dungeons and even raids to reset bosses before they are supposed to, and in some cases reset bosses without having to re-clear the dungeon at all.
Let's see if it layers. Might just port me. If it ports me, that's fine. I'll just head to Black Rock Mountain. This is exactly how it worked for me earlier. I did this and the boss respawned. Yeah, see, I think he's... Yep. Really? That's not how layering works? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to be an asshole about it. But yeah, this is exactly how layering works in Dungeon.
So in the clip I just played, that was one of the streamers, and oh my god, you should see some of the comments people are saying about the streamers too. We'll get to that in a second. But the guy basically stood in the corner of a map of a dungeon, Nomergon, trying to farm, let's say, some sort of a boss with some sort of weapon, and he was trying to see if he can get the exploit to work. Basically what he did is he left his group where the boss was dead, got invited into another group by another player, then he got layered onto a different version of said dungeon. Now layering should supposed to work out in the open world, and dungeons should be separate instances. So he was basically put in a whole new instance of a dungeon where the mobs have respawned, but he's already inside of that dungeon, and he's in a corner where he can just walk up to the boss, kill him, go back to that corner, and do this again, and again, and again. Think of the most lucrative boss to farm in all of World of Warcraft vanilla. Think of every kind of dungeon where the boss drops to say best in slot loot, and now have players abuse this over and over and over until they get them insane loot, and maybe even insane BOE drops, where they can say get an insane amount of gold out of it. So that's basically what people were doing recently, and Blizzard took action. Although there was a backlash even with Blizzard doing this. Not from everybody, but from the people that said, you know what, you shouldn't ban these players. There's a couple different arguments for it. One, hey, the layering system wasn't in vanilla, and this is a clever use of game mechanics. Even though it is kind of game breaking because people are able to farm bosses without having to re-clear the full dungeon. If someone, let's say, at least this is my opinion, if I've heard somebody, let's say, hey, we decided to spam run this certain dungeon where you have to run into the dungeon, clear every single trash bag, clear every single boss until you make it to the last boss, run all the way out, reset it, run in, and do the same thing all over. I would personally have no issues with that. That's a group that decided to trek their way through that dungeon, clearing every single mob over and over and over, all those bosses until you finally reach the last boss, and after 5 attempts, whether you get a piece of loot to drop or not, it really is up to RNG. But here, this is somebody that is able to farm the boss as much as they want them, without any kind of lockouts, without having to trudge through any of the mobs, and you just kind of reset yourself. Here's the boss, kill it real quick, everybody go back in the corner, let's reset it again, and just do it over and over and over. Some people have said that this is a bug that is the fault of Blizzard. So people abusing this bug or using this bug or whatever the word you want to use here, because a lot of words have been thrown around in the forums. This is Blizzard's fault. So it's Blizzard's fault that people are using this to farm bosses in this way. So you shouldn't have anybody get banned for it. Blizzard even made a statement that said, hey, if you figured something out where it's like, wow, that seems game breaking, I'm gonna report it and not, you know, just keep farming it over and over and over, then yeah, they're not gonna ban you. But if someone figure out, oh, there's this exploit, let me abuse it to the very end, just farm it for hours and hours and hours, then yeah, you probably are doing something malicious. Which is how they choose to differentiate the system. If somebody, let's say, does it by accident and then instantly reports it, no harm, no foul. They figured something out and they didn't take advantage of it. And if somebody did take advantage of it, when there's some serious reward and prize, like classic World of Warcraft loot matters even a lot more than loot, let's say I would even say in BFA. So somebody having insane loot is a massive advantage, and if they found a way to get that loot easier, it does feel like an exploit. And then there were also forum posts claiming that every one of the streamers that are popular for classic World of Warcraft all should be banned. Mostly to make an example, because all of them have abused this layering bug, this layering exploit to get the best loot possible. Excuse me for not taking super serious to some of the forum posts. We know how forum posts can be sometimes. Sometimes they may be able to get things way exploded out of proportion. Sometimes they emphasize certain things and they kind of go overboard when it comes to certain pieces of information and maybe even the outrage that forums may have. So, sorry if I'm not siding with the forums immediately here. There's also a blue post that I guess should be noted, which I guess does confirm that streamers did use this to some extent. A blue post says, someone mentioned SFN's random MC reset in this thread, which is a pretty clean example of the other end of the spectrum. The end of the spectrum they're talking about is malicious use of the exploit versus a non-malicious use. In that case, they just turned up to a raid and the instance has been reset. They didn't do anything intentional to cause it or go looking for reproduction steps so they could abuse it. In fact, they reported it to us and did not continue until they got the confirmation that it was out of their control and that we wouldn't consider it an exploit if they cleared. Then we have forum posts saying that Sotopoppet kept farming certain bosses over and over and over using this exploit, and look, this is what I will say. If someone has direct proof that a streamer has been farming certain bosses with the intention that they know that this exploit is around, and they say something along the lines of, yeah, I'm just going to keep farming until they fix it, and they get to keep all of their loot, then yeah, I feel like they should be treated exactly the same way as the people who were farming bosses intentionally to get something extremely rare to drop. While there is definitely a fine line between somebody, let's say, okay, I want to make sure that I figured out this exploit. Okay, somebody invite me in a group, okay, it occurs, and you're like, okay, I want to make sure, do it again. Maybe like somebody doing like at max 5 times, like, okay, they're just trying to make sure they know exactly how to recreate it, and then they go and do it again. But if somebody sits there in a dungeon doing this for like 20 times in a boss, I feel like you can figure out exactly if there's like, okay, there's an exploit, I should probably stop, or hey, there's an exploit, let's keep using it until Blizzard fixes it, maybe I'll get something good out of it. I feel like if you go through every single one of the streams, if someone has the time to want to clip all the different parts, to get all the information, all that footage, and compile it together, you could bring up a case for every single one of the streamers. I feel like the streamers, some of the more popular ones, people like to jump on board and a hate wagon a little bit too quickly. Most of the streamers save their VODs, and you can go back and get highlights, you can get the full picture and get the full confirmation of the information they have. If somebody wants to go about doing this, if they feel like there really has been some sort of unfairness that has to do with streamers, they're more than welcome to do that. Until then, I'm just gonna go with the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. And hey, maybe there is some sort of a video already made with people, some sort of exploits. Maybe as a forum thread that documents this stuff. I just haven't seen it yet. So, not taking any sides. I'm open to any more new information. If somebody wants to link me down below, I am more interested in it. I would like to see it for myself just so I can make my own conclusions here. But that's, I think, what I'll go with in my end statement. I'm not taking a side, and if there has been some foul play, then there should definitely be some sort of repercussions for the foul play. But until I see concrete evidence, I just can't say much about it. And I think that's going to be the end of this video. A lot of things have been happening in World of Warcraft. Cannot wait for patch 8.2. And the classic World of Warcraft seems to be kind of not filled with drama, but there's definitely pockets of drama here and there I hear from time to time. But then, of course, always the negative news is the news that ends up coming up at the top of everybody's newsfeed anyway. So please don't take it with a faint heart. Please don't take it in a negative light. I'm still having a lot of fun with Classic. Leveling has been so much more funner since I've been able to change my talent build and running more a dagger build, which is I'm just simply enjoying a lot more. But you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments below on everything we talked about today. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys got more information about the Classic WoW fiasco, feel free to link me down below. But with this, I'll see you guys in another video.